Let's talk about good vibes only and the positive mindset that so many people hold inside the spiritual community. While this is a well-intentioned message to keep things positive and lighthearted and really allow people to embrace the joy, I think that there's also a layer and an aspect where we're falling into emotional avoidance and what that could look like, what emotional avoidance is. So this is what I'm diving into in today's episode is when is it just positive thinking and when are you bypassing your own emotions, gaslighting your own emotions, or repressing emotions that actually need to be felt through because you are a human here having a human experience. And I talk about what emotions are, what positive mindset looks like, also what emotional avoidance looks like, and steps that we can take to heal and feel through our emotions in order to create the breakthrough that we are meant to have and experience the lessons that we're meant to learn in this lifetime. Let's dive in. I'm your host, Tiffany Chung, your go-to for all things marketing, mindset, and manifestation. I grew my online business from 0 to beyond 6 figures in 8 months. My purpose is to empower women to step into the highest, most aligned versions of themselves. If you are ready to take charge of your life, learn how to design a wildly successful business, and leave limiting beliefs behind, you've come to the right place. You will learn the actionable tips and step-by-step strategies on money, manifestation, and social media. It's time to step into your role as boss, to raise your vibration, and tap into your unlimited potential today. Welcome to the Social Reset Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I'm excited to talk about this today. Today we're talking about emotional avoidance versus a positive mindset. So we hear a lot, especially if you are involved in any type of spiritual community that is really in touch with more free thinking and just really having that liberation over your mind, over your body, which is obviously a beautiful thing. It's why I mix spirituality with business and the energetics. But I think that I think coming into it, coming from someone who didn't have a quote unquote spiritual background, I know these words are used kind of interchangeably and are very subjective. I had more of a religious, organized religion background where I grew up in a private Christian school, and there was a lot of that. And I felt like there was that emotional avoidance in a different way where it was like, oh, give it to God, right? And it would be, bypass your own emotions sometimes and gaslight yourself and just give it to God, right? If you're giving into fear, you're not believing in God, which can definitely happen in the spiritual community in so many different ways. Some of the biggest ways that I see it happening is, not giving into fear and essentially just, rewriting that with the most positive mindset possible. This definitely does happen in religious settings and in a bunch of different cultural contexts. But today I wanted to talk about it in regards to the spiritual community, spiritual business, etc., because that is something that I feel like I can speak on. So let's talk about how this shows up, right? So let's talk about emotional avoidance first and what that means, and then we'll go into positive thinking and kind of where that comes from. We can talk about the term toxic positivity and different things like that in a few minutes. So emotional avoidance is essentially you have emotions come up and you are bypassing, you are avoiding them, you are pushing them to the side, you are, essentially repressing these emotions that you don't want to have because they are difficult or you name them as negative. I don't like to use the word positive and negative emotions for myself or for my daughter because I don't believe that negative emotions exist. I believe that there are some emotions that come up and can feel really uncomfortable. I believe that there are emotions that can create distress for us, but I don't think that any emotion is rooted in quote unquote good or bad or positive or negative. And I think that when we do create those labels around it, it creates even more avoidance because we don't want to feel through them. And the reality of the situation is, as spiritual as you are a human being on this earth who has chosen to reincarnate here. And that's what I believe. You've chosen to reincarnate here. You've chosen to essentially have this life. Your soul chose this life for one reason or another. You are here for a bigger purpose, a purpose outside of yourself. And for whatever reason, you decided that you were going to have a go at the human experience, right? And so this might not be your first time on earth. Your soul might have had several returns, but for whatever purpose, whatever story, we are all here as human beings on earth. And so completely ridding of our emotions, completely ridding of fear is not something that's actually humanly possible, right? You can get to a place where you are as healed as you can be, and you're very conscious of your emotions, and you are very intentional with how you feel, and you're very intentional and conscientious with your actions towards others, which is beautiful, but it still doesn't mean that you are exempt from the emotions that you feel as a human being, right? This is something that we are essentially like, we can't escape from the human experience. And so that's emotional avoidance. Let's talk about positive thinking and positive mindset, especially as it pertains to the spiritual community, right? There is a lot of talk of good vibes only, right? Only thinking positive thoughts. I've seen coaches and a lot of different people kind of just want to shove away any negative emotion because they want to keep up this rhythm of positive thinking. And it actually ends up being the thing that hurts them even more because emotions, they're messages. It's our body's way of telling us, hey, something's wrong, or hey, we're going to give you a little burst of fear because you should actually be watching out for this person, right? There's that bad gut feeling for a reason. Or you feel really excited and giddy because you're in the right place in the right time with the right people. So rock on, right? And all of these different emotions that come up for any number of reasons, regardless of how it causes us to react, is a message for us. And the more that we ignore that message, the more that we ignore that nudge, the more we ignore those emotions and choose to push them down and suppress them, the more they're just going to come out in different ways, right? Think about the private school religious children that you might have known growing up, or maybe you were one of them like me, and you were told your entire life to never have sex and to not do drugs and to not do anything and to not curse, right? And so this might be a more extreme example for some people, but that was my childhood. And I couldn't watch movies. I couldn't watch, even if it was like a younger movies for younger kids where there was like a kiss in it, right? It was like I was very, very sheltered and I was very much in this bubble. And so, I mean, as you all know, I got pregnant at 18, caused me in a way to want to react, right? It didn't mean that I was a bad kid. It didn't mean that like there was something necessarily wrong with me. It just meant that like I was suppressing myself my entire life. And so when I got a little bit of freedom, I went balls to the wall, right? And so for me, it came out in wanting love and wanting affection and wanting sensuality and sexuality in my life and exploring that for myself. But I would say for a lot of people, it comes out in a lot of different ways, right? It comes out in addiction. It comes out in a numerous amount of expressions. Another way I see it is when boys are taught to not feel their feelings, and they're taught boys don't cry from a young age. So anytime they have the urge to cry or show emotions, they literally literally repress it, sometimes to the point where they're so numb to their emotions. And the way that men are societally accepted to show their emotions is through anger. That's why we see a lot of angry men or a lot of violence and crime perpetuated by men, right? And so I think it's important to really think about what were the ways that you were kind of taught to repress and suppress your own emotions, whether that's through childhood, from your parents, environments, teachers, or if you are just entering kind of the spiritual realm. I know myself, I've had several spiritual awakenings starting from last year. And one of the lessons I've learned is like, I'm such an emotional person. I'm such an empath. I have an open emotional energy center in human design, which means that you're a true empath. You take in all of those emotions of the people around you in that open center. So for a lot of my life, it wasn't because I was scared of upsetting people. I mean, yes, I was, but I was more so scared of how would they respond if I set this boundary, if I stand up to them, because I'm going to have to feel all of their emotions. So I would just really like curb and skip from any type of confrontation or setting boundaries. It turned me into a huge people pleaser because I wanted to kind of be in that state where I didn't feel my emotions. And so emotional avoidance can create a lot of pain inside of you. And I truly believe that diseases and different ways that our body reacts through, infections and sickness can come from stress and emotions and secrets and things that we hold on to inside our bodies, because these are all vibrations, right? These are all vibrations that are happening and that we're experiencing inside of our bodies, our physical bodies, and our emotion and our energetic bodies, along with our emotions and how we feel. So the way that I would love people to approach emotions, and especially the more difficult ones, the ones that we view as quote unquote negative, even though I don't like that word, but I think a lot of people resonate with it, is really being honest with how it is that you feel. I find that when I feel a difficult emotion coming up and I'm like, oh God, why is this coming up? I don't like it. I don't like this feeling in my body. I try to pinpoint where it's coming from in my body. I have a defined sacral center as a generator in human design. So I feel a lot of things there, kind of below my belly button, whether that's like a rising feeling when I'm excited, or like a pit in my stomach, a sinking feeling when I know something is wrong or I need to pivot in some way. And so I tap into that. Sometimes my throat closes up and I can't take a full breath, and it's like harder for me to breathe. That is typically when I feel like I need to say something, and I have a defined throat center, so that can be connected as well. So for me, it's like, is it that like gut sacral feeling? Is it that closing throat feeling? So I try to tap into my body and just sit with it for a little bit. You don't have to be meditating for an hour, anything like that, to feel into these emotions, even though meditation is beautiful. I just kind of sit with it and close my eyes for a bit and just kind of drop into my body. And I find that the more stillness we create, the more mindfulness we create, the more we just create a bit of space, whether it's like 5 minutes or 2 minutes, to sit with our bodies and just say, okay, hey, what's going on here? What's happening? Right? Let's slow down and let's listen. What is the message that's coming up for me? Because again, these emotions are just messages. And the more that you're able to feel through it, whether you need to cry, you need to scream into a pillow, you need to call a friend, you need to go for a jog, do some yoga, do some breath work, right? Move your body a little bit. I love moving my body. I find that I always feel better after moving my body. I don't love to exercise. I don't love cardio. Sometimes I will go for a run, but I'll typically dance. I love to blast music and just dance in front of my huge mirror, and it helps me to release some of those emotions. It's also why I got a trampoline, so I can rebound, bounce, right? Shake out my body, shake out my limbs. And I also love to journal. I also love to talk my emotions out. So whether you're recording voice notes or writing things out on an online journal or a physical journal, pen and paper, you can rip it up or burn it right afterwards. But I find that I'm able to identify and find clarity within my emotions when I am coming from this place of, okay, let's just see what's going on here. And it makes it a lot less scary. It gives it more power, the more energy you give to it, and the more you're able to release it and let it flow out of your body by sharing it with someone, by sharing it and putting it down on paper, the more it releases its hold on you, and the more that you're able to feel more liberated and more empowered in that way. And so in regards to positive thinking, I think that there are so many ways to approach your emotions and your mindset. And sometimes the best thing to do when you're healing is to feel through those emotions. Some difficult emotions just need to be felt through, right? If you're going through a breakup, you would never tell your best friend, oh, just think positive. Just think positive thoughts every time she, maybe wants to reach out and talk and she's really down, right? Sometimes you just need to kind of sit through it. You need to give yourself time to feel through it and to let it suck. And then after you've given yourself the chance to do that, you can start picking yourself back up. You can, start, getting into more of a rhythm, creating a new schedule. But if you don't give yourself a couple of days or even a couple of weeks to allow it to suck in the way that you want it to and be really, really, really kind to yourself through the entire process, it's just going to make it that much harder, right? People who are numbing their pain with things like sex and alcohol or drugs is just going to make that process so much more prolonged. I heard a study where people, if they started taking drugs at a young age, like if they were a teenager, say they're like 15 or 16, and then they get sober like 10, 15 years later, in their 30s or in their 40s, they are kind of picking up back up off from that age of 15 or 16 because it really numbs all of the pain, all of the human experience that you're meant to facilitate and work through. And breakthrough comes from tears. Healing comes from tears. Breakthrough comes from feeling your feels, from feeling your emotions. And so as spiritual as we may be, as in touch with our past lives and our intuition and our energetic body and our third eye, these are all incredible things that I'm also on the journey of exploring so much further, and will share so much more with you all. But it also doesn't mean that we get to somehow bypass or waive that experience of being a human being and having these emotions and recognizing that they come up for a reason. So I find that not only do we do this to other people, sometimes this happens primarily towards ourselves, where we gaslight ourselves out of this, wanting to feel our emotions and slap it on with positive thinking. So the next time that you are in your mentality or mindset of good vibes only, I think it's important to recognize that feelings and emotions and feeling the uncomfortable is a part of why we're here on earth, and it's a part of our dharma and the lessons that we need to learn and our secret sauce in order to share that with the world and completely evolve into who we're meant to be. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Send me a message on Instagram at tiffanychung.co if you found this enlightening, if this resonated with you, if this is something that you're interested in chatting with a little bit more, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at tiffanychung.co. I truly appreciate interacting with every one of you. Catch you all on the next one.